Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. Let's say you want to add pricing tables on your page. What you would do is you would come over here, add an equal column, and then you would choose your pricing tables. So I'm just going to search for them quickly here and add them. So let's say you want to have 3. So there we go. We have our 3 pricing tables. Perhaps maybe you want to make this slightly bigger. You can come over here to your row settings, and then you're going to now make it a content row. Okay. The next stage now is we are going to need some gaps between here. And by the way, I'm using my design system, which makes it easier for me to design using Divi 5. So let's add some gaps in here. So I'm going to come over here, go to design, and then under layout, I'm going to choose small gap, just like that. Okay. So when I take a look at this, it looks like everything is okay. But the problem is when I view this in preview mode and try to make it responsive, what happens now is it is not actually responsive. Look at that. They all shrink. And if someone is viewing your pricing tables on a mobile device, it is not going to show correctly. So what I decided to do was create a complete page, which I am going to share absolutely for free. And this page looks like this. So this is a complete design of your pricing tables. It is responsive. So if I were to grab one of the corners like that, you can just do that, and you're going to notice that, look, right away it is responsive. And now on the mobile, they are stacked. Okay. So this is how it's supposed to be if you're going to be designing a page with pricing tables. And I also added, a bit of description text and so on. So this design, as I mentioned, I'll be sharing it absolutely for free. But throughout this design, I will be using my design system, which makes it easier for me to design this really, really fast and consistent. So let's go ahead and let's design this from scratch. So I'm going to start off by just deleting that, and then we're going to go in and add an equal column. So what we need in here is a bit of text. So I'm going to search for my text module and select it. So in here, we're going to add a bit of text. This is going to be sort of like an entry to my pricing page. And usually this describes what this page is about. So let's go ahead and center it. And then coming over here on my design system, I'm going to choose K label. Okay. And you can see there we have our size already applied. Next, I'm going to click here on this plus button. This time we need to add some sort of heading text. Okay. So we're going to come over here to heading. Next, I'm going to go in here and replace this text. And then the next step is to center this text. So I'm going to come over here to design. And first of all, I need to assign this to heading 1. So I'm going to come over here and just say heading 1. And you can see right away, the heading has already been chosen and everything is going to be responsive out of the box. So all I need to do now is to come over here and center my heading text. I may need to capitalize, the words here. So let me go ahead and do that. The next step now is to add a bit of paragraph text for my description. So I'm going to click here on this plus button, and then I'm going to search for my text module like that. And then I'm going to go in and add my text. Right, so that's my description text. I'm going to center it. And then over here on the top, I'm going to make sure that this is set to body text. Boom. So just like that, everything looks now much, much better. So what I may need to do here is just to make my column here readable by making sure that it's a content size. So I'm going to click here on row settings, and then over here on the top on my design system, I'm going to set this to wide text row. So you can see now it has taken a smaller profile, which makes it easier for people to read when they take a look at my site. The next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that my spacing here is all correct. So I'm going to select my rows, and then I'm going to come over here to elements. And in the columns here, I'm going to make sure that I choose my gaps. So I'm going to go to design and then layout. I'm going to say gap 0. Okay, so what that does is it removes the spacing between all my elements. And all I have to do now is to manually add my spacing using the spacing scale. So I'm going to choose this heading text. And then over here on the spacing, I need to add margin. So I'm going to say margin top, and I'm going to set that to small. And then for the paragraph text here, I'm going to set my margin to medium. So I'm going to come over here, margin top, medium. Okay, so now my spacing looks much, much better. The next thing I'm going to do now is to add my my new column. So I'm going to click here on this plus button. We're going to need one single column, but in my design now, I'm going to package everything in a group so that it's easier for me to design everything. So I'm going to come over here to group, and in this group, this is where now I'm going to start adding all my elements that I need. So the first thing I'm going to need is text, and then I'm going to need heading. So I'm going to click here on this plus button, add my heading. I'm also going to need a description text. So I'm going to add my text like that. And I think to separate this, I'm going to need a divider. So I'm going to set my divider like that. And then after the divider, I am now going to have my icon list like that. Okay, so far these are the elements that I need. So I just need to make sure that I rearrange this and label them. So this one here is going to be my starter package. So I'm just going to name this starter. Okay, and then I'm also going to give it a bit of a description text here. So here it can be maybe yearly or monthly or whatever it is, or this could be also the price. In fact, I can add another one here, which is going to be my heading, and this is where the price is going to be. So let's say the price here is going to be 97. Okay. All I need to do now is to center everything, because right now it's looking all messy. So let's go ahead and do that quickly. I just select my module here, make sure that it's centered, and then I'm going to set my label. But before I do that, let's center everything. So I'm going to come over here. This is my heading, right? So I'm going to go into my heading text, center it, go on to my description text. Same thing, center it by coming over here to text, center, and then the price also needs to be centered. So this process here is very straightforward. You just need to go in and just pretty much center everything. And the same thing applies here to my icon list. I'm just going to go in and center it as well. Finally, I'm also going to need a button after the icon list. So I'm going to click here and add my button. And I'm also going to center the button. So I'm going to come over here to design, alignment, and then center. Now, while we're on the button here, I might as well just say buy now like that. And then I'm going to change my button here to my secondary button. Okay. Again, this is all pre-designed for me because I'm using a design system. I don't need to go and start styling the button all over again. Okay. So far so good. Now let's go in and start labeling everything from scratch. So let's say this is my subtitle. I'm going to go in and replace my text like that. And then I'm going to come over here and set this to K label. All right. So this description here is okay. I'm going to select my text and I'm going to set this to heading 1. Okay. So now nice and big. Or in fact, you know what? Maybe that's a bit too much. Let's go to heading 2. Okay. Next, we're going to come over here now to the description text, right? So on the description text here, this is what describes the package. So we're going to say features include and then colon, and the pricing here needs to go above and between the features include and that. So here we can decide how we want our pricing to be. Should we set this to, slightly bigger? Of course, we have all these opportunities here to make it really big. So I can even go on and say, I want heading large. Okay. So now my price is really, standing out. Okay, great. So the next thing we're going to do now is to work on our design over here. So I'm going to go in and select my module like that. I'm going to go over here to my icon list, and then I'm going to choose my K icon list. Boom. Now, do you notice that everything is going to be pretty much the same size and everything is already designed for me? All I need to do now is to go into each and every item. For example, I'm going to go into the first item or the second item here. Okay. And then we're going to change the icon. So in here, I'm going to search for the check, and here it is. Select that. Okay, so I got my check mark, and I also need to go to this one here, and let me just see what happens when I type in minus. There we go. I'm going to go with this one right here. Excellent. But because that's going to show what's missing, I want to change the color. So I'm going to come over here to my icon color, and I'm going to go to my color system. Again, this color system comes with the design system. I don't have to guess all my colors. My colors are all set for me. So I'm going to go with, let's say gray 200. Okay. Right. So this one here, I don't need the very first one. So I'm going to delete that. But before I do that, I'm just going to duplicate this a few times, because these are items that are included, and the items that are not included are perhaps maybe even 3. And that's okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is to delete the top one. So I'm going to come over here, delete icon from list, and now that's gone. And then I'm also going to select this. Okay. So if you want to center them, you just come over here to sizing, and then you align center. So now we're pretty much almost there. The next thing I'm going to do now is to just make sure that my spacing here is right. So I am going to select my group settings here. And first of all, add a background color. So I'm going to come over here, go to my background, and the color I am going to choose in the background here is going to be from my color system. And we're going to go with, let's go with gray 50. Very light gray. Okay. We don't want anything crazy. So now we want to add a padding around this. So we're going to come over here to design, and make sure you're still in the group. Okay, so let's go to our spacing system. So over here on spacing, guess what? We can go in and say spacing. Let's try extra large, padding extra large on all sides. And I think that works, right? Because we're also going to make it smaller, remember? And then over here on this line, we're going to select it and divider weight. I think 2 is fine, but we need to change the color. So to change the color, we're going to come over here to line, and let's go with gray 200. Okay, I think it's subtle enough. Or let's try gray 100. There we go. All right, so now we need to sort out the sizing. So I'm going to come over here, and for the width, let's try 50%, and then we're going to center it. Okay, so 50% I think is fine. If you want, you can go a bit lower. Perhaps you can just go to about, let's say, 36. Okay, so far so good. I think I like what I have. I just wanted to change this to my normal paragraph text. So I'm just going to say K body text. Boom, just like that. So in your case now, you can go and really label these whatever you want. But of course, this is just pretty much a demo. Okay, now I am going to add a bit more padding to the top here, because I don't think that looks great. So I'm going to select here, and then I'm going to go to my spacing, and under spacing here, I'm going to say padding top, and then let's try medium. Yeah, I think padding top medium works. All I have to do now is to duplicate this. But the problem is when I duplicate it, it's one above the other, right? So it's a bit of a challenge. So what I need to do now is to use auto grid, which again is in our design system. So I'm going to click here on row settings, and then we're going to come over here to layout. Oops, we're going to come over here to content, elements, and then make sure you select columns. So in the column now, this is where we have access to auto grid. Okay, auto grid is very, very special because it allows our design to be side by side and automatically responsive. This is the magic of auto grid. So let's label our row, because right now it's the default that you get with Divi. So we want this to be a content row. So we want this to follow our 12 column grid. So I'm going to come over here and then choose content row like that. Okay. Now we want to add the third item. So boom, now we have 3 items. So when you have 3 items, this is where you can decide, okay, is the text too big? Do you want to make it a bit smaller? It's pretty much up to you at this stage. Okay. So perhaps since this one here is heading 2, you can change that to perhaps maybe even heading 3. So I'm going to come over here. Okay, so now it's slightly smaller, and let's do the same here. Set this to heading 3. Okay, for the text here, the pricing, either you can leave it as it is to make it really more prominent, or if you want, you can make it smaller as well. And of course, our buttons here, everything is looking great. Okay, So now that we have this, of course you want one to stand out, right? So let's go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to go into this one here. So for this one here, you can decide what you want. Do you want to make it the primary color, or do you want to use dark? So in this case, I'm just going to restart this, go back in. And in fact, I prefer it when I click it from here because all the labels are there on my colors. So I want to go with a dark background, okay, for this one. But of course, if you want, you can go in and add your actual primary color, which will be this one here. So that one becomes the one that people may want to choose if they want to get a bargain, right? But of course, like I said, you can also use the dark version, which is your background dark, just like that. And then all you need to do is to reverse the colors. And again, the reversing of the colors is very, very easy because you're using what? The design system. So I'm going to come over here, K heading large. I'm going to say K heading large light. K heading large, here it is, boom. And then this one here, if you select it, it's saying K heading 2, but now we want, in fact, K heading 3 light. That's what we need. There we go. And then this one here is a label. So I'm going to go in, K label light. Okay. And at this stage, you can go in and, label these whatever you want. So for example, if I go in to this text module and go into text, so ideally this would be gold, silver, platinum. So let's say this one here is silver. And then we can come over. Oh, in fact, let's finish off. So I'm going to come over here. This is my body text. So I want K body light. There we go. And then I can continue on here and make all these light as well. But before I do that, I just want to make a few changes. I'm going to come over here to the group settings and let's add a bit of some rounded corners to that. So I'm going to go to border, right? So border radius, I can say small. And now I've added my rounded corners. I can do the same over here. Border radius, I'm going to say small. I'm going to do the same over here. Border radius, set this to small. Okay, so now I've got a sort of like a design going on here. I mean, straight away, you can see that this is already looking great. The next thing I need to do now is to select my section here and then add my section padding and set this to large. Look at that. I'm going to save this and let's do a preview. Look at that. So now you have a complete section, which is responsive and which is pretty much designed with a much better layout, and everything that you're seeing here is responsive. Like I said, I am going to share this. It's absolutely free. And this just solves the problem of the pricing tables that are not responsive out of the box with Divi. So you can go ahead and use this. And if you want to use this, it's very, very simple. Let me just export it. So I'm going to say K pricing tables. So I'm just going to rename this. Okay, so now I can just click export. And if you want to use it, you can always pretty much import it. So for example, let's say I want to import the same design, and this is, let's pretend that this is a brand new page. Okay, brand new page. You have not designed anything. You want to include this. All you need to do is to come over here, import exports, click on import, and then I'm going to find the file. So I'm going to say, in fact, I'm going to say import presets, and I'm going to find the file. And here is the file. It's a .json file. And then I'm just going to say open, import, and there we go. You have the design. So the design is absolutely free, but of course, for this to work, it's going to need our design system. The links to that will be in the video description below. At the moment, there's a $40 discount. So grab it while the discount is still available. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think. And if you want me to make more of these section designs, which are ready to use, please let me know. And if you're not a member of Divi University, head over right now to diviuniversity.com. So becoming a member is absolutely free. You can join for free. And I also have a course, which is the Divi Mastery course. This course will teach you how to design with Divi 5. As you know, Divi has been built from the ground up, and this is a new design page builder. So already there's 1,167 students. So go ahead and sign up to that. The price for the Divi Mastery course is only $27. $27. So when I add new lessons, you won't need to pay any extra. But of course, the price is going to go up. So the only way to lock your price in is by purchasing it now, and then you get access to future lessons. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.